Summer Files, Old Town Ghost. The calls echo. The phone receiver sat in its cradle like a tombstone. A cold piece of plastic grief that had just connected me to a life I had tried to bury. Erma Bennett's voice, as fragile as old paper, had cracked through the silence of my self-pity. She knew about Old Town, a part of me I thought was locked away forever. Angela's mother, calling me back to the one place I swore I'd never return. A scar called Old Town. I stared at the scattered files on the floor, the remnants of a man who was supposed to be dead. But Irma's call had ripped the bandage right off the wound. It wasn't just a place. Old Town was a scar. It was where a 14-year-old me, already running numbers for Claude Bronson, met Angela Bennett. She was 17 and a million miles out of my league. She was a different kind of light in a dark world. We had a summer of love that felt like it would last forever. But forever only lasted until the Bunko Squad put me in reform school. When I got out, the Bennett family was gone. No one in the neighborhood knew where they went. It was as if they had been erased. I tried to find them, but every door I knocked on was sealed shut with tight lips. Except for Sister Allison, who never had a kind word to say about Angela and me. The unsettled debt. I'd always had an inkling, a gnawing suspicion that Angela had been pregnant. And in those days, a pregnant, unwed teenager with a thug on her arm headed for reform school was too much for a family to bear. I always blamed myself. The shame of what I was, what I had become, had driven them away. I'd spent my life running from that shame, only to find it again in the arms of a dead girl on a rain-slicked street. The girl who had died to save me. My daughter. My heart felt like it was breaking all over again. Now, Erma Bennett's voice echoed in my head, too serious to discuss over the phone. She hadn't just called me. She had called the part of me that, despite my best efforts, was still jackhammer. The part that knew I'd be in Old Town on Thursday to confirm my darkest suspicions. Thursday, Erma, past due. The day had a fog of smog and dust as I waited on the corner. The cab was a rusted-out Ford filled with the scent of stale air and cheap vinyl. I gave the address to the driver, a kid with too many tattoos and too little regard for the road. The street names were a roll call of forgotten promises. Sampson, Union, Mill. Each turn was another step back in time. Old Town was a rat trap, a place most people either died trying to escape or just died in. Erma and Angela were part of the lucky few who got out. But I knew Allison hadn't. She was Irma's sister, a sour, sharp-tongued woman who hated me more than a politician hates the truth. I could still hear her spitting venom about Angela's thug boyfriend. I wondered why Erma would choose to meet at a house where I wasn't welcome. But the answer came easy. The others were gone, died or moved away. Allison was all that was left of the Bennett family in Old Town. And now, I was coming back to her. A ghost in the glass. The city lights were a smear through the dirty, rain-streaked window. I stared at my reflection, seeing a man who looked older than he felt. He had run from this place once, but a part of him never left. That part was a scared kid with a crush on a girl 3 years his senior. Angela. She was the one good thing to happen to me in this hell. a bright spot in a world of grays and shadows. My summer of love with her was a beautiful lie. A dream that shattered the moment the cops put me away. I knew why Erma was calling now, and I knew what she was going to tell me. The gut feeling I'd had for so long, the one I'd shoved down with whiskey and work, was screaming at me. The girl who died to save my life, the one I just lost, she was Angela's daughter. My daughter. My hands tightened into fists, the knuckles white. The old debts were finally coming due, with a heartbreaking interest rate. The cab pulled to a stop. The journey to the past was over. Now, the reckoning began. A cold welcome. The cab pulled away, leaving me on a street of broken glass and fractured memories. Allison's house was an old two-story, sagging on its foundation like a tired man. The paint was peeling, and the front porch had a permanent list to starboard. A single bulb, yellow and weak, fought against the coming dusk. This was the same house where a young, scared Angela had lived. This was the house that had hidden my shame. I walked up the cracked concrete path, the air cold and damp with the promise of more rain. I raised my hand to the door, hesitating for a moment. This was it. The moment of reckoning. The end of a 30-year run from my past. The door opened before I could knock. Allison stood there, a thin woman with a face that looked carved from granite. 30 years hadn't been kind. The venom was still there in her eyes, a kind of hatred that had aged, but never faded. "Took you long enough," she said, her voice like gravel. "Erma's in the parlor. Don't get any ideas." She stepped aside, but her body language was a warning. My presence was an insult to her home, her sister, and her memory of me. I walked past her and into the house. The air was thick with the smell of old furniture and a faint hint of peppermint and cat. I didn't say a word. I just kept walking. And there she was. Erma Bennett, older and smaller than I remembered, sitting in a worn armchair. Her hair was white. Her hands were folded in her lap, and her face was a roadmap of a pain I could only guess at. She looked up as I entered the room. Her eyes were a deep, tired blue, and in them, I saw Angela. December's daughter. The room was quiet. Erma and I just stared at each other, two people separated by decades of shame and unspoken truths. Her eyes, tired and sad, were the same deep blue I remembered on Angela's face. I didn't have to ask the question. I knew the answer, and she knew I knew. She was born in December, Erma said, her voice a whisper that sounded as old as the house itself. "Your baby." I didn't flinch. I felt the words hit me, but I'd been expecting the blow for 30 years. Erma's husband, Mike, a devout Catholic, was broken and ashamed. He couldn't stand the sight of his daughter and her unwed pregnancy. They sold everything and moved to Wisconsin. To him, the shame was so great the only thing to do was disappear. Erma continued, her voice gaining a little strength as the story unfolded. "We raised her as our own. Told everyone she was our youngest daughter. It was the only way. Against her father's wishes, Angela named her baby Jackie Angel Bennett. To keep the peace, everyone called her Angel. My hands trembled on the arms of the chair. Angel. The girl I had held in the alley, the girl who had died to save me. My own daughter. Erma's voice dropped again, filled with a new kind of pain. Once she had the baby, Angela turned 18 and saved up enough money waiting tables. She came back here, to Old Town, looking for you. But you were gone. Vanished, the same way we had. She went back to Wisconsin heartbroken and never really recovered. She started drinking, moving from one bad man to another. She just gave up on life. Erma looked at me, her eyes wet with tears. She took off a few years back, and we haven't heard from her since. Erma reached for my hand. Her touch was cold and frail. Now her daughter is dead. And someone needs to tell her. Jack, you have to find her. A resolve cast in concrete. Erma's hand on mine was an anchor pulling me back to a life I thought was lost at sea. My own daughter. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp, like a cleaver waiting to fall. My hands didn't tremble anymore. They were hard, solid. The grief was still there, a knot in my chest, but it was now a foundation. The fog had lifted. I had a purpose. I pulled my hand away gently. This wasn't a time for sympathy. It was a time for work. Where? I asked. My voice was a rasp, but it was steady. Erma looked at me, confusion in her eyes. Where what? She asked. Where did she go? I said, leaning forward. Where did she take off to? You said you haven't heard from her in years. There had to be a last call, a last address, a last man. Give me everything you have. Erma shook her head. There was nothing. She just left. No note. No forwarding address. She was in a bad way. A real bad way. She was living with a man named Sal in Milwaukee. But I don't know his last name. He was no good. Said some awful things to her. She was a ghost by the time she left him. I was listening to the words, but my eyes were on the mantel. A small, wooden box sat there, its edges smooth. My eyes moved to a single photograph. A younger Aunt Allison and a beautiful teenage Angela. Erma's gaze followed mine. It was the year she turned 18 and came looking for you, Allison piped in crossly. She wrapped up that box. Said it was for you if you ever came looking for her. It was full of old letters and things. But then she took off and I put it up there. You don't know how many times I thought about throwing it away, but now I'm so thankful I didn't. My eyes went back to the box. A small, wooden box, wrapped in worn paper. A gift from a ghost, for a ghost. The first clue. I stood up and reached for the box. As I took it, my eyes went back to the photograph. I'm going to need this, I said. The photo too. I reached and took it. Erma nodded, a small, tired gesture. Allison was reluctant, but agreed. The photo was no good to the case. It wouldn't help me find Angela, and had no value in leads or clues. It was a picture of the girl I had loved, a ghost from a different time. And I wanted it. I softly assured the two women not to worry. I was in with all I had. I stepped out into the dull gray twilight of Old Town. Credit. The front door was unlocked, as always. The bell chimed a lonely echo in the silence of Old Town Frank's house. He was in his armchair, a ghost in a worn suit, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. The TV was on, the sound muted, a silent parade of smiling faces on the evening news. He looked up, his face a roadmap of every debt paid and unpaid in the city. A smile, as thin as a razor's edge, spread across his lips. "Jack, the prodigal son returns," he said, setting his glass on the coffee table with a slow, deliberate grace. "What can I do for you?" "I came by to thank you," I said, my voice steady. "What you did for me with Rocco, it was more than I deserved." The family's eye. Frank waved a hand, dismissing the debt. "Family is family," he said. "Always." "What's the real reason you're here?" I took a deep breath. I just left Erma Bennett, the old woman from the old neighborhood. She told me something I always suspected, but never wanted to believe. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. "I had a daughter." Frank's smile vanished. He didn't flinch, didn't show a flicker of surprise. He simply nodded, a slow, grim acknowledgement. "I know," he said. I stared at him. "You know? You always knew? The family keeps track of its own," he said, leaning forward. "Always. Some of us stay in the light. Some of us, like you, step out. It makes no difference. Family is family." He looked me in the eye. "We always knew about Angela, too. And the little one. Jackie Angel, wasn't it?" A cold dread seeped into my veins. If the family knew all this time, why hadn't they told me? The answer was a hard slap to the face. They had tried. A war unwaged. We tried to protect them. We put money in her mother's account. Got her out of a couple of tight spots. Frank's voice dropped. But some things we can't touch. Not without starting a war. He looked me in the eye, and the cold dread became a concrete fact. The Rossini family had her. They got their hooks into her, and we couldn't get her out. She was Rocco's girl, we were helpless. We lost her to the streets before she ever had a chance. He picked up the glass on his coffee table, turning it over in his hands. "And Angela, we lost track of her years ago. Maybe they have her too. Maybe she's also gone." He looked at me, his eyes full of a sorrow that went deeper than his lines. "We couldn't help you then, but we can help you now." I stood there, the full weight of his words crashing down on me. I had a box of letters, a photo, and a name, Rossini. The first two were clues. The last was a target. I left Frank's house and stepped back out into the cold, damp night.